You know that feeling of doing everything right in life, yet still feeling a kind of emptiness that no one can explain. As if you were living on autopilot, just following protocols, but not really feeling anything at all. My name is Evelyn Cross. I am 53 years old. I own a mansion on the Upper East Side that could easily appear on the cover of any architecture magazine. And I have a bank account that guarantees I will never have to worry about anything material for the rest of my life. It sounds perfect, doesn't it? But let me ask you something. When was the last time you felt that you truly mattered to someone? Not because of your money, not out of obligation, not out of social convention, but simply because you exist? I couldn't remember. December has always been my hardest month. There is something about the entire world deciding to be happy at the same time that makes me feel even more alone. Christmas lights on every corner, families hugging on Fifth Avenue, laughter spilling out of restaurants. All of it seemed to remind me of what I didn't have. Before I continue, let me ask you for one thing. If you believe in second chances, in quiet miracles that happen when we least expect them, give this video a like and subscribe to the channel because stories like this deserve to be shared. And tell me in the comments, what country and city are you listening from? And if you want, leave a score from 0 to 10 at the end and tell me what I could improve. Your opinion is very important to me. Richard, my husband, died 7 years ago. A sudden heart attack at 52. We had been married for 23 years. We tried to have children for nearly a decade. Every negative test, every failed treatment, every doctor shaking their head with sympathy, until eventually we stopped trying. We told each other that it was fine, that we were enough, and for a while, it was true. But after Richard was gone, the house became so silent that I could hear my own heart beating at night, and the silence told me things I didn't want to hear. I filled my days with work. I managed the foundation Richard had created, signed checks for charities, attended benefit dinners where everyone was polite and no one was real. I was good at it, efficient, impeccable, empty. Every December, the foundation donated toys to children's shelters in New York. It was a tradition Richard had started, but I never went in person. I sent my assistant, signed the paperwork, transferred the money, kept a safe distance from anything that might make me feel something. But on December 3rd, 2019, something changed. Margaret, my assistant of 12 years, called saying she had the flu and that I would need to go to the shelter myself to sign the donation papers. Just a formality, she said. 30 minutes, at most. I almost canceled everything. I made up 3 different excuses in my head. But there was something in the way Margaret coughed on the phone that made me feel guilty. So, I agreed. St. Catherine's Home for Children was located in the Bronx, in a red brick building that had been beautiful a long time ago. I arrived at 2 in the afternoon on a cold Tuesday. The director, a woman named Mrs. Patterson with gray hair and tired but kind eyes, greeted me at the entrance. Mrs. Cross, it's an honor to have you here in person, she said, shaking my hand with both of hers. The children will be so excited when they find out. There's no need to tell them, I replied quickly. I'm just here to sign the documents. I don't want to cause a commotion. She looked disappointed, but nodded. She led me down the main hallway. I could hear children's voices coming from somewhere in the building. Laughter, shouting, the chaotic sound of life happening. We entered her office. Papers were already waiting on the desk. I was about to sit down when I heard something that made me stop. Silence. Not the silence of my house. This was different. It was the silence of someone who chose not to make noise while everyone else around them did. I'm sorry, I said, looking out the office window that faced a recreation room. But who is that girl over there? Mrs. Patterson followed my gaze. In the recreation room, about 15 children were playing. But in the far corner, near a bookshelf, there was a girl in a wheelchair. She looked about 8 or 9 years old. Dark brown hair pulled back into a simple ponytail. She was drawing in a notebook, completely unaware of the chaos around her. "That's Clara," Mrs. Patterson said, and there was something in her voice. Sadness, maybe, or frustration. "Clara Miller. She's been with us for almost a year." "Why is she alone?" "She prefers it that way. Clara isn't like the other children. She's quiet, observant. The others tried to include her at first, but she always refused. Eventually, they stopped trying." Something pulled at me. I can't explain it. It felt as if an invisible string was tied to my chest and someone was pulling it tight. "May I meet her?" Mrs. Patterson looked surprised. "Of course, but, well, Clara isn't very receptive to visitors. She's polite, but distant. Don't expect much." We entered the recreation room. The children immediately surrounded us, shouting questions, showing drawings, asking for attention. I smiled politely, but my eyes kept returning to the girl in the corner. When I finally managed to approach her, Clara didn't look up from her drawing. "Hello," I said softly. She stopped drawing. Slowly, she lifted her gaze. Her eyes were a deep blue, and there was something in them that made me forget to breathe for a second. It wasn't sadness, it was awareness. As if she knew exactly who I was, what I wanted, and why I would eventually leave. "Hello," she replied. Her voice was low, controlled, as if each word was carefully measured before being released. "My name is Evelyn. I'm here to, well, I'm donating some toys to the shelter." "Thank you," she said, and went back to drawing. I should have left. I should have signed the papers and gone back to my silent house. But instead, I found myself saying, "What are you drawing?" Clara hesitated. Then she turned the notebook so I could see. It was a house, but not an ordinary house. It was a house seen from inside a window, as if the artist were standing outside, looking in, seeing the warm yellow light, but unable to enter. "It's beautiful," I said, and I meant it. "It's not," she replied simply. "It's just a house I remember." "Did you live there?" She closed the notebook. "For a while?" There was something in the way she said it, as if 1,000 unspoken words were trapped behind those 3. "Clara, may I ask you a question?" She waited. "Why do you stay here alone when the other children are playing?" For the first time, she looked me straight in the eyes, and what she said cut through me like a knife. "Because it's easier to be alone than to be left alone later." You know that moment when someone says something so true, it feels like they've just opened your soul and read all the pages you tried to keep hidden? I had no words. Clara tilted her head, studying me. "You stay alone too, don't you?" How did she know? How could an 8-year-old see through me so clearly when adults who had known me for years could not? "Yes," I admitted. "I do." She nodded, as if that confirmed something she already suspected. "Everyone who comes here says they'll come back, but they never do. Not after Christmas." "Why not after Christmas?" "Because Christmas is when people feel guilty. They come, they bring presents, they feel better about themselves, and then they leave and forget we exist. At least until the next Christmas." My God, she was right. How many times had I done exactly that? How many checks had I signed just to feel better about not actually being present? "Clara, what if I told you I would come back, that I'm not here just for Christmas?" She looked at me for a long moment. Then she said something that haunted me for days. "You don't have to lie to make me feel better. I already learned not to believe promises." And she went back to drawing. I stood there, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. It wasn't pity. It was recognition. As if I were looking into a mirror that showed not who I was, but who I had become. When I returned to Mrs. Patterson's office, I signed the documents with hands trembling slightly. "Mrs. Cross, are you all right?" she asked. "Clara," I began, trying to keep my voice steady. What happened to her? Why is she in a wheelchair? Mrs. Patterson sighed. There was an accident. About 18 months ago. She lived with her uncle after her mother passed away. The details are unclear, but there was a fall. Stairs. Since then, she hasn't been able to walk. And the uncle disappeared after the accident, left her at the hospital, never showed up again. My stomach twisted. What kind of person does that? The kind who should never have had a child in their care to begin with. She paused. Clara is a special girl. Mrs. Cross, intelligent, perceptive, but she's built walls so high that no one can reach her. We had 3 families interested in adopting her last year. All of them backed out. Why? Because Clara doesn't let anyone in. She's polite, obedient, but completely closed off. The families wanted a child who would love them. Clara only offered politeness. I understood perfectly, because I did the same thing. Are there medical records about the accident? Very few. The uncle avoided major hospitals, took her to a small clinic, got a certificate stating the injury was permanent, and that was it. Since then, Clara refuses any further exams. She gets agitated when we suggest it. Agitated how? Panic, silent, but real panic, as if she's terrified of something we can't see. I looked out the window again. Clara was still drawing, completely alone in a room full of people. I would like to come back, I said, to visit her. Mrs. Patterson looked at me in surprise. Really? Yes, I'm not promising anything, but I would like to come back. She smiled. You would be more than welcome, Mrs. Cross. As I drove home that afternoon, snow began to fall over New York. Christmas lights blinked in every window. Families walked together along the sidewalks. And for the first time in 7 years, December didn't feel like just a month to survive. It felt like a month in which something could change. But I had no idea how much. Nor did I imagine that the quiet girl who drew a house seen from the outside was hiding a secret that explained not only why she couldn't walk, but why she was so afraid of anyone discovering the truth. And that this secret would force me to make a choice that would change both of our lives forever. Have you ever met someone who changed everything in you without even trying? Someone who simply existed beside you and somehow made you realize that you had been living the wrong way all along. Because I was about to meet that person, and she was only 8 years old. You know when you make a decision and you can't fully explain why? When something inside you just knows you need to do it, even while your rational mind is screaming that it's madness. 3 days after my visit to St. Catherine's, I was back, without notice, without Margaret organizing anything, just me, driving through the Bronx on a Friday afternoon, with a bag in the passenger seat that I had spent hours choosing. When I arrived, Mrs. Patterson looked genuinely surprised to see me. Mrs. Cross, we weren't expecting you today. I know, I'm sorry for showing up without notice. I just thought I'd bring a few things for Clara. She glanced at the bag with curiosity but didn't ask. Clara is in the library. That's where she spends most afternoons now. St. Catherine's had a small library on the 2nd floor. It was a cramped room with old wooden shelves and the smell of aged books that reminded me of my college library. 3 children were reading when I walked in, but Clara was alone near the window, a book open on her lap. She saw me enter. Her blue eyes met mine for a second, then returned to the book. No surprise, no disappointment, just quiet acceptance that I had come back, against all her expectations. I approached slowly, as if I were moving toward a wild bird that might fly away at any moment. Hi, Clara. Hi. She didn't look up. May I sit? She shrugged. I took that as a yes and pulled a chair beside her. What are you reading? She turned the book so I could see the cover. Anne of Green Gables. I loved that book when I was your age, I said, and it was true. Have you gotten to the part where she breaks the slate over Gilbert's head? For the first time, something like an almost smile touched her lips. I just passed that part. She's intense. She is. She feels things very deeply. That hurts her sometimes, but it also makes her special. Clara looked at me then, really looked at me. You came back. I said I would. No, you didn't. You asked if I would believe you if you did. Those are different things. My God. This girl missed nothing. You're right. I didn't promise because I learned that promises are dangerous, but I came back anyway. Why? It was a fair question, one that deserved an honest answer. Because when I left here on Tuesday, I realized I couldn't stop thinking about you. I couldn't stop wondering if you were okay, if you were alone, if someone had sat with you today. And then I realized it had been a very long time since I cared about someone like that. I missed you, Clara, and I barely know you. Something changed in her eyes. It wasn't trust, not yet, but it was interest, careful curiosity. Did you bring that for me? She asked, looking at the bag. Yes, they're not toys, just so you know. I don't know what kinds of things you like, so they might be terrible. She took the bag with careful hands, as if it were something precious. First she pulled out a new sketchbook, with thick paper and a soft leather cover. Then a tin of professional colored pencils, not the cheap kind. And lastly, a book. The Secret Garden, she read aloud. I thought you might like it. It's about a girl who finds a hidden garden and learns that sometimes things that seem dead are just waiting to grow again. Clara ran her fingers over the book's cover. Thank you, she said softly. No one has ever given me books before, just toys I'm too old to use. How old are you, Clara? I'll be 9 in January. On the 15th? So you're a Capricorn. My husband was a Capricorn. He used to say Capricorns feel everything twice as deeply as everyone else, but only show half of it. Your husband? He passed away 7 years ago. I'm sorry. And the way she said it felt genuine, not the automatic politeness people offer, but real empathy. Thank you. You know what it's like to lose someone important. She went very quiet. My mom died when I was 6. She was a Cancer. Do you remember her? I asked hesitantly. Some things. She smelled like vanilla, always wore this nice vanilla perfume, and she sang. Not well, but she sang anyway. Clara closed her eyes for a moment. Sometimes I can still hear her if I try really hard. My heart broke a little. I'm sure she had a beautiful voice. She didn't, but I liked it anyway. She opened her eyes. After she died, I went to live with my uncle, her brother. He didn't sing. The way she said it, the way her voice went completely flat, something was wrong. How long did you live with him? 1.5 years, until the accident. Clara. I chose my words carefully. What happened in the accident? She stiffened. Her hands clenched the book hard enough that her knuckles turned white. I fell down the stairs. How did you fall? I just fell. I don't really remember. But she did remember. I could see it in her blue eyes, in the way her whole body tensed, in the way she was no longer looking at me. It's okay, I said gently. You don't have to tell me anything you don't want to. She took a deep breath. Mrs. Evelyn. Just Evelyn is fine. Evelyn, why did you really come back? People don't come back, especially people like you. What do you mean, people like me? Rich people, important people. People who have better things to do than spend time with a broken girl who can't even walk. The word broken hit me like a punch to the stomach. Clara, you are not broken. I am. Everyone knows that. That's why nobody wants me. I took her hand. She didn't pull away, but she didn't squeeze mine either. Are you listening to me? You are not broken. You are hurt, and hurt things can be healed. Not me. The doctor said I'll never walk again. Which doctors? She hesitated. I don't know their names. It was a small clinic. My uncle took me. And you've never seen another doctor since then, a specialist? No. Her voice grew smaller. I can't. Why not? And then she said something that left me completely frozen. Because if I say the wrong thing, someone will get hurt. He said that if I talked, everything would get worse. And he was right. Because now Mommy is dead, and I'm here and everything is worse. Have you ever had that moment when everything clicks and you realize something terrible happened, but the child in front of you is so scared that you can't push? When you know you have to be gentle, but every instinct is screaming for you to protect that child. Clara, who said someone would get hurt. She shook her head. I can't talk about it. That's okay. But can I ask you something? Your uncle, was he kind to you? Silence. Clara. Sometimes, she finally said, when he wasn't angry. And when he was angry, he yelled, said I was a burden, that he never asked for this, that I should be grateful he didn't put me out on the street. Her voice was mechanical now, as if she were reciting facts. And I tried to be quiet. I tried not to be a problem. But sometimes I was a problem anyway. And when you were a problem, she looked down at her hands. He pushed me, not hard, just enough for me to know he was angry. And one time he pushed me at the top of the stairs. And I fell. That was all. That was all. As if being pushed down the stairs by an adult who was supposed to protect her were just something that happened. As if it were normal. I was shaking, with rage, with horror, with absolute grief for this child who had learned to minimize her own trauma. Clara, that should not have happened to you. You know that, right? I know, but it did. And now I'm here, and he's somewhere, and it doesn't matter anymore. It does matter. It matters a lot. Why? There was real confusion in her eyes. Nothing will change. I still can't walk. I still don't have a family. I'm still the girl nobody wants. Have you ever wanted to hold someone so tightly that all the broken pieces would fall back into place, but knew that if you moved too fast, they would run? Can I tell you a secret? I asked. She nodded. I thought nobody wanted me either. After Richard died, after years of trying to have a baby and failing, I believed there was something fundamentally wrong with me, that I was the person bad things happened to. So I stopped trying. I stopped letting people in. Because it felt safer to be alone than to risk being abandoned again. And then I met you. And you made me realize that being alone is not being safe. It's just being alone. And I'm tired of being alone, Clara. She looked at me with those enormous blue eyes. But you'll get tired of me too. Everyone does. Maybe, or maybe not. But the only way to find out is by trying. We sat in silence for a long moment. Outside, the snow was falling heavier now, covering the Bronx in white. Evelyn, she said finally. Yes. Could you read to me? From the secret garden? No one has read to me since Mommy died? And there, in that small, old library, with the snow falling outside and Christmas lights blinking on the street, I read to Clara Miller. She leaned against me while I read, just slightly. So slightly that she could pretend she wasn't doing it if I reacted badly. But I didn't. I put my arm around her and kept reading. And for the first time since Richard died, I felt needed. When I finished the first chapter, I looked down and realized she was crying silently. Clara, what is it? Nothing. It's just that it's a beautiful story about things that grow again. But I knew it wasn't about the story. It was about being held, about being seen, about someone staying. That night, when I returned home, I called my personal lawyer. Harold, I need you to investigate something. A man, probably in the Bronx or nearby. He abandoned his niece after an accident about 18 months ago. Full name, I don't have it yet, but I'll get it. Evelyn, what's going on? I'm fixing something that should have been fixed a long time ago. Then I made another call to the best orthopedic doctor in New York. Dr. Richardson, this is Evelyn Cross. I need you to examine a child, a spinal injury from an accident, diagnosis of permanent paralysis. But I don't believe it. Why not? Because the diagnosis was made by a cheap clinic for a man who had every reason not to look too closely. And because this child deserves a second opinion. She deserves a chance. When I hung up, I looked out the window of my living room. Christmas lights in every building. New York glowing. And I realized that for the first time in 7 years, I had something to wake up for beyond just surviving another day. I had Clara, and she needed me. But what I didn't yet know was that saving Clara would mean facing truths she was desperate to keep buried, truths that terrified her more than the idea of never walking again. And that in the coming days, I would have to decide how far I was willing to go for a child I barely knew, but who already felt like family. Have you ever had to choose between respecting someone's fear and fighting for them even when they beg you to stop? Because that choice was coming, and it would change everything. During the following week, I visited Clara every single day. I didn't give notice. I simply showed up. Always at the same time, 3 in the afternoon, when the other children were in the recreation room and Clara was in the library. On the 3rd day, she already had a book waiting for us to read together. On the 5th day, she showed me her drawings without me asking. On the 7th day, which was her birthday, December 15th, she hugged me. It was quick, almost imperceptible, but her arms wrapped around my neck for 3 full seconds before she pulled away, blushing. "I'm sorry," she murmured. "For what?" "For touching you without asking." My heart broke again. How many times had this child been reprimanded simply for existing, for needing basic affection? "Clara, you can hug me whenever you want. I would actually love that." She looked at me with those blue eyes, searching for the lie, for the trap, but she didn't find one. "Happy birthday," I said, handing her a small wrapped package. 9 is important. She opened it slowly, as if the paper were just as precious as what was inside. There was a delicate gold locket with a small tree engraved on the front. "Trees have deep roots," I explained. "Even when the whole world is stormy, they stay standing. You remind me of a tree, Clara, strong, resilient, with roots deeper than anyone imagines." She held the locket as if it were the most valuable thing in the world. "Can I wear it now?" "Of course." I put it on her. She touched the locket against her chest, and, for the first time since I met her, she smiled. A real smile that lit up her entire face. "Thank you, Evelyn. It's the best present I've ever gotten." But I knew I couldn't just give presents and read stories. I needed to act. That afternoon, after leaving St. Catherine's, I went straight to the office of Dr. James Richardson at Mount Sinai Hospital. He had agreed to meet me in person, which was already extraordinary considering his schedule. "Mrs. Cross," he greeted me, shaking my hand. "You mentioned a child with a spinal injury." I placed the few medical records Mrs. Patterson had managed to provide me on the table. They were pathetic. 3 poorly filled pages from a clinic in the Bronx, dated the previous year. Dr. Richardson examined them, his expression growing increasingly grim. "This is all? It's all that exists. There are no MRIs, no neurological follow-up, no documented physical therapy? Nothing." He removed his glasses and rubbed his eyes. "Mrs. Cross, I can't make a diagnosis without examining the child, sorry, but I can tell you that this," he tapped the papers, "is not a proper medical diagnosis. It's documented medical negligence. So there's a chance? A chance of what? That she might walk again, He chose his words carefully. Spinal injuries are complex, but without proper exams, without updated imaging, without a full neurological evaluation, it's impossible to say whether the paralysis is permanent or the result of untreated trauma, nerve compression, or even a psychosomatic response to trauma. Psychosomatic? Sometimes, when a child experiences severe physical and emotional trauma at the same time, the body gives up. Even when it could function physically, psychologically it can't. It's a defense mechanism. A chill ran down my spine. And if that's the case, then with the right treatment, physical therapy, psychological therapy, a safe environment, there is a real chance of recovery. But again, I won't know without examining her. She's afraid of doctors, I explained. Why? Because the man who hurt her controlled the medical narrative. He decided what doctors saw, what they investigated, what they recorded. For her, doctors are part of the system that failed to protect her. Dr. Richardson leaned forward. Mrs. Cross, who is this child to you? That was the question, wasn't it? Who was Clara to me? Honestly, I don't know yet. But I know that when I look at her, I see someone who deserves a chance no one is giving her. And I know I have the resources and the ability to change that. So how could I not try? He smiled. You just described exactly why I became a doctor. Bring her to me. I'll examine her personally, at no cost. I can pay. I know you can, but some things aren't about money. They're about doing what's right. 2 days later, December 17th, I was sitting with Mrs. Patterson in her office, trying to figure out how to convince Clara to see a doctor. She'll refuse, Mrs. Patterson said. We've tried 3 times since she arrived. Every time she panics. She doesn't scream, she doesn't cry, she just freezes, stops speaking completely. Once she stayed like that for 2 whole days. What if I ask her, as a personal favor to me? She looked skeptical. You can try, but, Mrs. Cross, I need to be honest with you. You're getting very involved with Clara. You're visiting every day. You brought birthday presents, and that's wonderful. It really is. But what happens when December is over? When the novelty wears off? Clara has been disappointed many times. I'm not sure she would survive another one. I won't disappoint her. Everyone says that. What if I adopted her? The words came out before I could fully process them, but the moment I said them, I knew they were true. Mrs. Patterson froze. Are you serious? Yes, or at least temporary custody first. How would that work? Well, you would need to go through background checks, a home evaluation, psychological interviews, training. The process normally takes months. What if I expedited it? I have connections, lawyers. She looked at me for a long moment. Mrs. Cross, may I ask you a personal question? Of course. Why Clara? You could adopt any child. A child without trauma, without medical issues, without the complications Clara carries. Why choose the hardest path? I thought about my life, the perfect house, the perfect bank account, the perfect routine, all so empty and meaningless. Because I don't want easy, I said. Easy is what I've had for the past 7 years. Easy is safe and dead and useless. I want hard. I want complicated. I want Clara, with all her trauma and fear and walls, because when I look at her, I see myself. And if I could go back in time and someone had shown up for me when I needed it, maybe I wouldn't have wasted so many years hiding from the world. Mrs. Patterson discreetly wiped her eyes. I'll start the paperwork today. That afternoon, when I went to see Clara, she was different, quieter than usual, which was saying a lot. Hey, I said gently, sitting beside her. What's going on? I heard Mrs. Patterson talking to you today. About doctors. You heard? I asked, startled. The door was half open. I didn't want to listen, but I did anyway. She looked at me. You want me to see a doctor? There was no point in lying. So I said, "Yes, but only if you want to." "I don't," Clara replied, her tone changing. "Why, Clara? Just help me understand." She stayed silent for so long that I thought she wouldn't answer. Then, so softly I could barely hear, "Because if the doctors examine me properly, they'll find out. And if they find out, they'll ask questions. And if they ask questions, everything will break again." "Find out what?" "That he hurt me on purpose. That it wasn't an accident. That I know it wasn't. But I pretended not to know because he said that if I told, he would. He said he would make it look like my fault. That I tripped because I was clumsy. That no one would believe me." Tears were streaming down her face now. And he was right. No one asked. No one investigated. Everyone just believed him. I took her hands. "I believe you. But it's just you, and he's an adult, a man. Uncles are family. Why would anyone believe that family would hurt someone on purpose?" Oh, my sweet Clara, who had learned so young that the world doesn't always protect the innocent. "Because I have power you didn't have," I said. "I have money, lawyers, connections, and the ability to make people listen. And I will use all of that to make sure the truth comes out. But I need you to trust me." "And what if the doctors say there's nothing they can do? What if I really can never walk?" "Then we'll deal with that together. But Clara, what if they can help? What if there's even a small chance you could get that back? Don't you deserve to try?" She looked down at her legs. "I don't even remember what it's like. Standing, walking, running. It's like that part of me died with Mom." "Then let's find out if it can come back to life." She took a shaky breath. "If I do this, if I see the doctor, will you stay? Even if it's scary. Even if I panic. I'll hold your hand through all of it. I promise." "You said you don't make promises." "I said they're dangerous. I didn't say I never make them. And I'm making this one. I won't leave you alone in this." She looked at me for a long time. Then she nodded once, fast, as if she might change her mind if she thought too much. "Okay, I'll see the doctor, but only if you're there. Every second." Dr. Richardson agreed to see her on December 20th, a Friday afternoon, after normal hours so Clara wouldn't have to see other patients. I took her myself. She was rigid the entire drive, her hands gripping the wheelchair as if it were an anchor. "Are you okay?" I asked. "No, but I'm doing it anyway." "And do you know what happened in that office that changed everything?" Dr. Richardson didn't treat Clara like a patient. He treated her like a person. He knelt to be at eye level with her, asked about her favorite books, commented on her locket, explained every step before doing anything, asked permission before touching her. And when Clara began to tremble during the physical exam, he stopped immediately. "Clara, we can pause at any time. You're in control here, understand?" She nodded, tears falling silently. "Can you tell me what's scaring you right now?" "It hurts. When you touch my legs, it hurts." He exchanged a look with me. "Clara, pain is a good sign. It means you have sensation, and sensation means the nerves are working." But the other doctor said I didn't have sensation. The other doctor was wrong, or he lied, or he didn't care enough to check properly. He ordered MRIs, neurological exams, consultations with physical therapists. And when everything was done, 3 days later, 2 days before Christmas, he called us back to his office. Clara squeezed my hand so hard it hurt. Dr. Richardson smiled, not a small smile, a huge one. "Clara, I have good news, very good news." "Am I going to die?" she asked, and my heart broke that this was the first possibility in her mind. "No, definitely not. The opposite, actually. You're going to live, and with the right treatment, you're going to walk." The world stopped. Clara froze completely. "What?" "Your injury is not permanent. You have nerve compression from a fracture that was never properly diagnosed. You have muscle atrophy from lack of use. You have psychological trauma creating neurological blocks. But none of that is permanent. With intensive physical therapy, possibly a small surgery to relieve the compression, and time, you can regain full mobility. I was crying. I hadn't noticed until I felt the tears soaking my blouse. Clara just stared at him. You're lying. I'm not. But why did the other doctor say? Because he didn't want to investigate, or was told not to investigate, or simply didn't care. How long? How long what? How long will I need treatment? 6 months to a year of intensive physical therapy, maybe a 2-hour surgery, and a lot of determination on your part. It won't be easy, Clara. It will hurt. It will be frustrating. There will be days you'll want to give up. But if you commit, I believe you can walk again. Clara looked at me. Is this real? It's real. I can try. You can do more than try. You will do it. And there, in that office, Clara Miller cried. Not silently, like she always did, but with loud, uncontrollable sobs from someone who had finally been given permission to feel hope. I held her while she cried, and over her head, Dr. Richardson quietly said to me, "Take care of her. She's special." I already knew. That night, as we drove back to St. Catherine's, Clara said something I will never forget. "Evelyn, if I manage to walk again, the first thing I'm going to do is walk up to you and hug you while standing, because you gave me back something I thought I lost forever." What? A future. And it was in that moment that I knew with absolute certainty Clara was not going back to St. Catherine's for very long. She was coming home, to my home, forever. But first, we had to get through Christmas, and I had plans. Plans that would show Clara that families are not just about blood, they are about choice. And I chose her. Now I just needed her to choose me back. Have you ever felt that sensation that something impossible is about to become real? As if the universe has finally decided that you have suffered enough and now it is time for something good to happen. It was December 24th, 2019, Christmas Eve. I was in my living room at 6 a.m, surrounded by legal papers, temporary custody forms, and a cup of coffee that had been cold for over an hour. Harold, my attorney, had worked miracles over the past few days. The background checks had been expedited. The home evaluation was scheduled for December 27th. But he had managed something even better. An emergency temporary custody order, effective immediately, valid for 90 days while the permanent adoption process moved forward. That meant Clara could spend Christmas with me, not at the shelter, not surrounded by pity and gifts from strangers who would disappear on December 26th, but at home, in a real home, with someone who wanted her. I called Mrs. Patterson at 8 a.m. "Mrs. Cross, happy Christmas Eve," she answered. "Mrs. Patterson, I have a question. If I had legal approval for emergency temporary custody, could Clara spend Christmas with me?" Silence on the other end of the line. Then, "You did it." "Yes. Harold delivered the papers last night. I just need to pick her up." I could hear the emotion in her voice. "Mrs. Cross, Evelyn, you do understand what this means, right? Clara has never spent a Christmas outside of here. She has never had a real Christmas with someone who wanted her." "I know. That's exactly why I need to do this. She deserves it. When do you want to pick her up?" "Now. Today. I want her to wake up tomorrow in the house that is going to be hers." 3 hours later, I was at St. Catherine's. Clara was in the library, as always, but today she was just staring out the window at the falling snow. "Hello, sweetheart," I said softly. She turned. "Evelyn, I didn't know you were coming today. I thought people spent Christmas Eve with their families." "I am with my family." She smiled sadly. You know what's funny? Tomorrow is Christmas, and I barely remember what a real Christmas feels like anymore. The last one was with my mom when I was 6. She didn't have money for many presents, but she made star-shaped cookies and sang Christmas songs completely off-key, and it was perfect. My heart was pounding. Clara, can I ask you a question? Of course. If you could spend this Christmas anywhere in the world, where would it be? She thought for a moment. I don't know. Somewhere that felt like home, I guess. Somewhere someone really wanted me to be. Not out of pity, but because I matter. And what if I told you I know exactly that place? She looked at me, curious. Where? My house. With me. If you want. She blinked. What? I knelt beside her wheelchair and took her hands. Clara, I received legal approval for temporary custody. That means you can come live with me while we finalize the permanent adoption. If you want, I'm not forcing you. I'm asking you. Do you want to spend Christmas with me? Do you want to come home? Her face moved through so many emotions. Shock, confusion, hope, fear. Forever. We're working toward that. But for now, for at least 3 months, yes. And if everything goes the way I hope, then yes, forever. But why? Why me? How do you explain to a child that she filled a hole you didn't even know existed? That she makes you want to wake up in the morning? That she made you believe life could still have purpose? Because when I look at you, I see courage. I see strength. I see someone who went through terrible things and still finds beauty in books and stories. I see someone who protects her heart fiercely because it's been broken too many times. And I see someone I want to know better. I want to be there when you take your first steps again. I want to bake star-shaped cookies with you. I want to hear about your favorite books every day. I want to be the person you look for when you're scared or happy or just bored. Clara, I choose you. The only question is, do you choose me too? Tears streamed down her face. You really mean it. It's not just for Christmas. It's not just for Christmas. It's for every day after that too. What if I'm difficult? What if I have nightmares? What if the physical therapy doesn't work? What if you realize I'm too much work? Then we'll deal with it together. Clara, I'm not looking for perfection. I already had perfection. A perfect house, perfect money, a perfect life, and it was empty. I'm looking for what's real, and you are the most real thing I have ever known. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and when she opened them, there was something new there, something I had never seen before. Trust. Yes, she whispered. I want to go home with you. Getting Clara ready to leave took less time than I expected, because she had very little. A few clothes, her books, the gifts I had given her. Everything fit into 2 small bags. That's it? I asked. That's all that's mine, she said simply. As we drove through the city toward the Upper East Side, Clara was quiet, watching through the window. The snow had stopped, and New York was wrapped in white, Christmas lights reflecting on every surface. Is it snowing again? I asked softly. A lot, she said, finally breaking the silence of that moment. My mom loved snow. She used to say it was like God was covering all the ugly things in the world with a clean blanket. A new beginning. Your mother sounds very wise. She was, until she wasn't anymore. She paused. Evelyn, can I ask you something? Always. Are you scared of having me, of all this responsibility? I thought about it honestly, then told the truth. I'm terrified. She looked at me, surprised. Really? Completely. I don't know what I'm doing. I've never been a mother. I've never taken care of a child. I'm going to make mistakes. A lot of mistakes. But here's what I've learned. The best things in life always come with fear. If you're not scared, it probably doesn't matter enough. I'm scared too, she admitted, of believing this, of letting it be real. Because if it's real and then it goes away, I don't know if I would survive that. Then we'll be scared together, but we'll try anyway, okay? And then we laughed, a lot. The kind of laughter that comes from relief, from honesty, from realizing that something beautiful might actually be possible. When we arrived at my house, Clara went silent, staring at the building. It was a classic 5-story brownstone, beautifully restored, on a tree-lined street. You live here by yourself, she asked. Yes, and now you do too. I took her inside. I had prepared the house over the past few days. Not too much. I didn't want it to feel false. But there was a Christmas tree in the living room, not too big, simply decorated with white lights and a few glass ornaments. Stockings hung on the fireplace, and the air smelled of cinnamon and pine. It's beautiful, Clara whispered. Do you want to see your room? Her eyes widened. My room, my own room. Completely yours. We went upstairs in the elevator. The bedroom I had prepared faced the front of the house, with large windows overlooking the tree-lined street. I kept it simple. A bed with a soft blue comforter, a desk by the window with art supplies, a bookshelf already filled with books, and a comfortable reading chair near the heater. Clara just stared, hands covering her mouth. You don't like it? I asked, worried. No, she said, her voice breaking. I love it. It's too much. It's too much. It's exactly right. Clara, this is your space. You can decorate it however you want. Change anything. Add posters, lights, whatever makes you happy. She rolled toward the window, looking outside. I can see the trees from here, and the snow on the branches. I thought you might like that. She turned to me. Evelyn, why are you really doing all this? I need to know the truth. Not the pretty version, the real truth. I sat on the bed, meeting her eyes. The truth? When Richard died, a part of me died too. The part that believed in purpose, in connection, in love. For 7 years I was just existing, waking up, working, sleeping, repeating, and I accepted it because pain was better than nothing. But then I met you, and you made me feel something again. Anger at what happened to you. Sadness for what you lost. Hope for what you could have. You brought me back to life, Clara. So selfishly, I'm doing this as much for me as I am for you, because I need you just as much as you need me. She wiped her eyes. Can I be selfish too? Always. I'm glad you were as alone as I was, because now we cannot be alone together. And there, in that room filled with the golden light of the winter sun, something settled between us. Not perfection, not an instant cure for all pain, but a beginning. The rest of Christmas Eve was strange and wonderful. I showed Clara the rest of the house. She was especially fascinated by the library on the 3rd floor. You've read all these books? She asked, staring at the shelves. Most of them. And now you can read any one you want. That afternoon, we baked cookies. Well, I baked cookies while Clara watched and gave instructions based on her mother's vague memories. More sugar, she commanded. Mom always said Christmas is the one day you can never have too much sugar. The cookies were terrible, burned on the edges, raw in the middle, shaped like nothing recognizable. They were perfect. That night, we sat near the tree. I had soft Christmas music playing. Clara wore new pajamas I had bought, blue with silver stars. Can I ask you about your husband? She said suddenly. Of course. What was he like? Richard was kind. He laughed easily, told terrible jokes that only he found funny. He loved jazz and strong coffee and old books. He always believed people were fundamentally good, even when the world proved otherwise. He made me want to be better. Do you still miss him? Every day, but not in the painful way anymore. Now it's more like, A wound that healed, but you can still feel where it was. You know it happened, but it doesn't hurt to touch it. Clara touched her locket. I think that's how I feel about my mom. Like a mark that will always be there, but I've learned how to carry it. That's very wise for someone who's 9. I had to grow up fast. Well, here you can slow down a little. Be a child for as long as you need. She looked at me with those enormous blue eyes. Can I tell you a secret? Always. Sometimes I feel like if I let myself be happy, something bad will happen. Like happiness is a trap. Like the universe is just waiting for me to let my guard down so it can take everything away again. My poor Clara. So young to carry so much fear. I understand that. I felt the same way after Richard died. But here's what I learned. Bad things will happen eventually, no matter what we do. We can be miserable waiting for them, or we can be happy in the meantime. And when bad things come, we'll deal with them together. But I won't let fear of maybe steal the happiness of now. She thought about it. Okay, I'll try. That's all I ask. At 10 o'clock, I helped Clara get ready for bed. Once she was tucked in, she held my hand. Evelyn? Yes. You're not leaving after I fall asleep, are you? The same question she used to ask at the shelter. The same deep wound. No. I'll be in the room next to yours. If you need me, all you have to do is call. But what if I have a nightmare? Then you call me, and I'll come. Promise. I promise. She closed her eyes, but I could tell she was fighting sleep, afraid that if she let go, she would wake up and everything would have been a dream. Clara, it's okay to sleep. I'll be here when you wake up. Tomorrow is Christmas, our first Christmas together. She finally relaxed, and as I watched her fall asleep, I realized I was crying again. But these were good tears. I stayed beside her bed until I was sure she was sleeping deeply. Then I went to my bedroom and called Harold. Merry Christmas, he said. Harold, I need you to find her uncle. His voice turned serious. The man who hurt her. Yes, he needs to answer for what he did, not for revenge, but because Clara deserves justice, and because I need to make sure he can never show up and claim her again. Evelyn, this could get complicated. He could contest the custody. He could claim family rights. Then do your job and make sure he can't. Use every resource we have. Hire investigators. Find doctors willing to testify. Build a case so solid that no judge in the world would ever give him a second chance anywhere near her. It will cost. I don't care how much it costs. Clara is worth every cent. After I hung up, I looked out the window. It had started snowing again, falling softly over a sleeping New York. Somewhere out there, thousands of children were asleep, waiting for Christmas. But here, in my house, there was one child who had already received the only gift that truly mattered, a family. And tomorrow, I would give her something more. Hope, joy, a real Christmas, and the promise that every Christmas after this one would be even better. And finally, after so long alone, neither of us was alone anymore. Have you noticed how the best gifts don't come in boxes? How sometimes the universe gives you exactly what you need, disguised as something you never thought you wanted? Clara was that for me. And tomorrow, I would do everything in my power to be that for her. It was December 25th, Christmas morning. I woke up at 6 a.m., not because I planned to, but because my body simply couldn't keep sleeping. There was a child in the room next door. A child who was my responsibility. My family. I lay in bed for a few minutes, listening to the sounds of the house, the heating humming softly, the wind outside, and then, very faintly, I heard something else. Clara was awake. I put on a robe and went to her room. The door was slightly open. She was sitting on the bed, just looking around the room, as if checking whether it was still real. Good morning, I said softly. She turned, and her entire face lit up. You're here. I said I would be. I know. But part of me didn't believe it. I woke up 3 times during the night just to make sure I wasn't dreaming. I walked in and sat on the edge of her bed. And, are you still dreaming? She pinched her own arm. No, it's real. You're real. Completely real. And you know what else is real? It's Christmas. Our first Christmas together. Her eyes widened. Oh, I almost forgot. How does someone forget Christmas? When you've spent so many Christmases trying not to care, eventually you learn to treat them like any other day. She paused. But this one feels different. It is different. And can I tell you a secret? This is my first real Christmas in 7 years, too. So we're in this together. 2 Christmas beginners. That made her smile. What do we do first? Well, traditionally, people go downstairs and see what Santa brought. She rolled her eyes. Evelyn, I'm 9 years old. I haven't believed in Santa for a long time. You don't believe in magic? I don't believe in old men breaking into people's houses at night. I laughed. I couldn't help it. Okay, that's fair. But even without Santa, there are still presents under the tree. If you want to open them, you got me presents. A few. Not many. I didn't want to overdo it on the first Christmas. I helped Clara into her wheelchair, and we went down using the elevator. I had it installed years ago when Richard started having trouble with stairs. Back then, it felt like a waste of money. Now, it was essential. When we reached the living room, Clara gasped. I had woken up during the night and added a few finishing touches. Extra lights on the tree, candles in the windows, and under the tree, 5 presents carefully wrapped in silver paper with blue ribbons. Evelyn, this is too much. It's just 5 presents, and you deserve every one of them. She rolled slowly toward the tree, as if approaching something sacred. She touched the first gift with hesitant fingers. Can I? They're yours. You can do whatever you want with them. She opened the first one, a set of leather-bound journals, all in different colors. For your stories, I explained. For when you want to write your own, not just read other people's. The second was a tablet. For physical therapy, I said. Dr. Richardson has apps that will help track your progress. And also for audiobooks when your hands get tired of holding physical books. The third was a collection of soft scarves and shawls. Because you mentioned your mom kept you warm, I thought you might like these. The fourth was an old music box that had belonged to my grandmother. It plays Claire de Lune. I thought Clara and Claire were close enough. And it always calmed me when I was scared. She opened it and listened to the melody, tears silently streaming down her face. And the last one, I said, my voice trembling slightly. She opened it. Inside was a silver frame. And in the frame, a photo I had secretly printed the week before. It was of the 2 of us at St. Catherine's Library. Mrs. Patterson had taken it without us noticing. I was reading to Clara, and she was leaning against me, smiling at the book. But it wasn't just the photo. Along the edge of the frame, engraved words read, "For Clara, my family, my daughter, my heart. Christmas 2019, the first of many. With all my love, Evelyn." Clara didn't say anything. She just held the frame to her chest and cried. I knelt beside her and hugged her. Hey, why the tears? Because no one ever called me their daughter before, after my mom died. Not really, not like that. Well, you're being called that now, if you want. You don't have to call me Mom if you're not ready, but you are my daughter. In my heart, in the legal papers we're working on, in every way that matters. She hugged me so tightly I could barely breathe. Can I? Can I call you Mom? There it was, the question I didn't know I'd been waiting for, the question that filled a 7-year deep emptiness. I would love nothing more in the world. We stayed like that for a long time, just holding each other while the snow fell outside and the tree lights blinked softly. Finally, she pulled back, wiping her eyes. I have something for you too. Clara, you didn't have to. I know, but I wanted to. She pulled a small folded paper from her pajama pocket. It was a drawing, made with the colored pencils I had given her for her birthday. It showed two people, an adult and a child. The child was in a wheelchair, but she didn't look sad. Both were smiling, holding hands, and above them, written in careful, childlike letters, my new family. Clara, I was crying again. It's beautiful. I worked on it for 3 days. It's not much. It's everything. After a breakfast of pancakes that were a little burnt, but that we ate anyway, we spent the morning just existing together. We read, watched an old Christmas movie. Clara tried to teach me how to make a snow angel on the living room floor since we couldn't go outside because of the heavy snow. It was simple, ordinary, perfect. But then, around noon, something changed. Clara grew quiet, not the peaceful quiet of someone who's comfortable, but the tense quiet of someone who's thinking too much. What's going on in that head? I asked. She looked down at her legs. I was thinking about physical therapy, about trying to walk again. Are you scared? Terrified. What if I try and fail? What if Dr. Richardson was wrong? What if my body just doesn't remember how? I took her hands. Then we try again, and again, and again, as many times as it takes. But Clara, what if it works? What if in 6 months you're running through the house? What if in a year you're dancing? I don't even know how to dance. Then I'll teach you, or we'll learn together. It doesn't matter. The point is, you have a chance, a real chance. And I know it's scary, but you are the bravest person I know. I'm not brave. I'm scared of everything. Bravery isn't not being afraid. It's being afraid and doing it anyway. And you do that every day. You were scared to trust me, but you did. You were scared to see Dr. Richardson, but you did. You were scared to come to this house, but you did. You are one of the bravest people I've ever known. She took a deep breath. When do I start physical therapy? Dr. Richardson wants you to have the surgery first. Small, remember? Just to relieve the nerve compression. Then a few weeks of recovery. Then intensive physical therapy, probably starting mid-January. That's so soon. It is. But you won't be alone. I'll be with you at every appointment, every session, every hard moment. Promise. I already promised, remember? And I don't break my promises. 3 days after Christmas, while Clara was napping in the living room, my phone rang. It was Harold. Evelyn, we have a problem. My stomach dropped. What kind of problem? We found the uncle, Marcus Clark. He's living in Jersey City. And when our investigator approached him, he became interested in Clara again. Interested how? As in, suddenly remembered he has a niece. As in, maybe he should claim his family rights. As in, he heard a wealthy woman is taking care of her and saw dollar signs. A rage I'd never felt before burned through me. He can't do that. Technically, he can. He never officially lost parental rights. He abandoned her, but there's no legal record of it. And without a proven criminal conviction, a judge could. Then we get the criminal conviction. Clara told me what happened. He pushed her. On purpose. That's assault. That's child abuse. That's neglect. Clara would have to testify. And Evelyn, she's 9 years old. Putting her on the stand, making her relive all of that while he's in the room. It could traumatize her further. I looked at Clara sleeping in the living room. So small, so fragile, so strong. Harold, I need you to understand something. That man is not going to touch her again. He is not going to come near her. He is not going to scare her. He is not going to take away the chance at healing she finally has. Use every legal tool available, and if legal doesn't work, find something that does. Evelyn, you're talking dangerously close to... I'm talking about protecting my daughter, because that is what she is now, and I will do whatever it takes. He sighed. Let me see what I can do, but Evelyn, you may need to talk to Clara about this. She should know he might show up. After I hung up, I just sat there for a long time. How do you tell a child that the monster from her past might come back? Clara woke up around 4. She saw me by the window and immediately knew something was wrong. What happened? There was no point lying. She always knew. I sat beside her. Do you remember when I talked about making your uncle answer for what he did? She stiffened. Yes. Well, my lawyer found him, and he's interested in you again. Panic flashed across her face. He wants to take me back. He won't. I promise you he won't. But you said he's interested. That means he'll try, right? He'll tell a judge he wants me back, and they'll take me from you and put me back with him and... She was hyperventilating now. I pulled her into me, holding her tightly. Clara, breathe. Breathe with me. In, out, in, out. It took a few minutes, but she finally calmed enough to speak. He told me, she whispered, after I fell, in the hospital. He said if I told anyone what really happened, he'd make sure I was put somewhere worse, that no one would believe me, that I was just a troubled kid no one wanted, and he was right. All those families who met me, they all left. They left because you didn't let them in, because you were protecting yourself. But Clara, you don't have to protect yourself anymore. I will protect you. How? You heard what the lawyer said. He could try. But here's the thing about men who hurt children. They rely on silence. They rely on fear. They rely on their victims being too young, too scared, too broken to fight back. But you are not broken. And you're not alone anymore. And I have resources he can't even imagine. But what if that's not enough? I looked straight into her blue eyes. Then I'll do more. I'll fight harder. I'll hire more lawyers, more investigators. I'll go to the media if I have to. I'll make so much noise that he'll have no choice but to back down. Because Clara, this is the difference between him and me. He saw you as a burden. I see you as a gift. And nobody takes my gifts. She looked at me for a long moment. You would fight like that for me. I would fight for you against anyone, anything, always. Even if it's hard, especially if it's hard. Something shifted on her face, determination replacing fear. Then I'll fight too. I'll tell the judges what he did. I'll testify. I'll be brave. Clara, you don't have to. Yes, I do. Because if I don't fight now, he'll always be there. He'll always be the shadow that scares me. But if I fight, if I tell the truth, maybe I can finally be free, free of him, free of the fear, free to just be your daughter. There it was. My 9-year-old girl, deciding to be braver than most adults I've ever known. Okay, I said, then we fight together. But Clara, one thing. No matter what happens, no matter what a judge says, no matter what anyone says, you are my daughter. On paper or not, legally or not, you are mine, and I will fight for you until my last breath. She hugged me. I know. That's why I'm not so scared anymore. That night, we did something that would become our tradition. We sat near the Christmas tree still in the living room, with only the tree lights illuminating the room, and each of us said 3 things we were grateful for. I'll start, I said. I'm grateful for you, for giving me purpose again, for reminding me there are still good things in the world. I'm grateful for you too, Clara said, for not giving up on me when everyone else did, for seeing me, not just my wheelchair. I'm grateful for second chances, for getting to have a family again after thinking that part of my life was over. I'm grateful for this Christmas, the first one that felt real in 3 years, the first one where I didn't feel alone. I'm grateful for snow, for books, for terrible cookies we make together, for all the little moments that make life good. Clara smiled. I'm grateful for trees, for stories, for second chances that haven't even started yet, and for you teaching me that families aren't about blood, they're about choice, and I choose you. And I choose you, my sweet girl, today, tomorrow, and every day after. In the weeks that followed, many things happened. Clara's surgery on January 15th was a success. The compression was relieved. Sensation began returning to her legs more strongly. Marcus Clark tried to contest custody, but when investigators brought medical records he had falsified, neighborhood witnesses who had heard shouting, and a doctor willing to testify that Clara's injuries were consistent with abuse, he backed down. He signed away parental rights in exchange for avoiding criminal charges. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt sad. Sad for Clara. Sad for all the children whose families failed them. Physical therapy began in February. It was brutal. Clara cried, screamed. Once, she threw a shoe at the therapist, but she never quit. In March, she stood for 5 seconds. In April, 10 seconds. In May, she took her first step, then fell, cried, and tried again. In June, she walked from the couch to the window without help. In July, she no longer needed the wheelchair every day. And on August 25th, the judge signed the final adoption papers. Clara Miller was officially Clara Cross, my daughter, legally, permanently, forever. But the most important moment didn't happen in a courtroom. It happened 3 days later, on a quiet Saturday morning at home. I was in the kitchen making breakfast when I heard footsteps, not the sound of wheels. Footsteps. I turned around. Clara was standing in the doorway of the kitchen. No wheelchair, no crutches, no cane, just standing. "Hi, Mom," she said, and then, slowly, carefully, she walked across the kitchen toward me. It wasn't graceful. It wasn't perfect. Her steps were awkward, hesitant. They were beautiful. And when she reached me, she hugged me, standing tall. "I did it," she whispered. "I really did it." "You did it," I said, holding my girl, my daughter, my miracle. We both cried. We cried for everything we had lost, for everything we had found, for all the hard days that led to this moment. "Remember when you asked me what I would do first when I could walk again?" Clara asked. "You said you'd walk over to me and hug me. Well, I'm doing that now, and you know what else." "What?" "This is even better than I imagined, because it's not just about walking. It's about walking toward my home, my family, my mom." You know what I learned through all of this? That miracles don't happen all at once. They happen in small steps, in brave decisions, in choosing to show up every day, even when it's hard. That family isn't about who gave you life. It's about who fights for your life when you can't fight alone. And that sometimes, when you least expect it, in a cold December when you feel most alone, the universe places someone in your path who changes everything. For me, it was Clara. For her, it was me. And now, every time December comes, I no longer feel that emptiness. I feel gratitude, because December gave me the best thing I've ever had. God gave me my daughter. Today, Clara is 14 years old. She walks, runs, even started dance classes that she loves. She still has bad days when her legs hurt. She still has nightmares sometimes about stairs and shouting, but she also has good grades, friends, dreams about college, and a mother who loves her more than anything in this world. And every Christmas, we do the same thing. We sit near the tree and say 3 things we're grateful for. And every time, one of hers is, "I'm grateful you didn't leave." And one of mine is, "I'm grateful you let me stay." Because in the end, that's what life is really about, isn't it? Finding the people who don't leave, and choosing not to leave them either. No matter how hard it gets, no matter how long it takes, just staying and building something beautiful out of broken pieces. And if this story reminded you that it's never too late to start over, to open your heart, to choose love even when it's scary, then every word was worth it. Leave your like and a message. Merry Christmas. And remember, the best gifts don't come in boxes. They come in moments, in choices, in people brave enough to stay. Thank you for staying until the end.